Hi, Nicole.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks for joining us today. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
So let's start. Tell us a little bit about where you work. Where are you today?
So I am at the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Laboratory, which is located at Jefferson Patterson Park in Southern Maryland in Calvert County. It is the central repository for Maryland's archaeological collections and also the home to the state's conservation laboratory.
How long have you been at the Mac Lab now?
15 years,
Wow.
which
So,
is great because it means that I've really got embedded into the Mid-Atlantic community of archaeologists. So that's good.
yeah, for sure. You are such a fixture down there. It's awesome. So in 15 years, what do you think is your favorite thing about your job?
Oh my gosh. I think it really has to do with the number of people that I get to meet that have, an interest in archaeology or a career in archaeology or a career adjacent to archaeology, and really seeing like how many different expertises and interests, are really out there. And also finding out that, maybe I can be of help to a lot of those different people, to help them meet their research goals or expand on their research.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not only in the Mid-Atlantic, but I'm sure your work extends, well out, into the rest of the country and
Across
probably
the
internationally.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are a very unique facility. So in addition to primarily being responsible for Maryland state-owned collections, we also have an external component where it's revenue generating to support our staff, but it brings in, or it allows other institutions who have collections in public ownership or in public viewership to have access to some conservation support. So we don't work for private individuals, but other state historical societies, the federal government. We do a lot of work for the Army, the Navy, the National Park Service. We just have a really unique group of people here who have a lot of expertise in different aspects of archaeological conservation. So we do work anywhere from, California to Deadwood to the Everglades. Like, you just never know what's going to come through our door, which is really interesting. But of course, I'm kind of partial to helping out our local Maryland people the most.
And we appreciate that. So, so even before you started there, what got you into archaeology and why have you stayed with it all these years?
I kind of fell in love with it when I was a little kid, honestly. My mom, I think she thought, this isn't going to stick, but I started kind of getting into it and continued to foster an interest in history. And when I was in high school, started to go on those preliminary excavations and then got sucked into a university. And then I told my mom I was going to be a conservator, and I think she thought that I was just going to be gluing pots together as a profession. And it's so much more complicated and varied than that. So
Well, to that point, I imagine your Maryland Archaeology Month topic was not just how to glue pots together. So,
no, no.
would you tell us about it, please?
So, I mean, what I was really trying to emphasize is the fact that, when we find these artifacts, we're really excited. That moment of discovery is fun when you have your hands on history. And unfortunately, a lot of those times we forget about how we impact the artifacts. We understand how they make us feel, but we don't necessarily know what we're doing to them. And some materials are relatively stable, but others can start deteriorating really, really quickly. And it's those decisions that are made, in that moment of discovery or shortly thereafter that can impact how that artifact is preserved and how much of that information can then be gleaned by researchers or the public, or, just to have it preserved for, future generations to appreciate. And so I wanted to kind of emphasize how that decision-making process can be made generally in collaboration with conservators. We're a really good resource, or, just with, professionals who maybe have a long-term experience of seeing collections and how they age and deteriorate over time.
So
So in this case, I
specifically,
was looking at the canon.
I'm sorry, please go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just asking, I mean, specifically, I think we're talking about metals, we're talking about wood, we're talking about things like that, that once you take them out of wherever they've been excavated, that they start to just deteriorate pretty rapidly.
So the things that are most susceptible to deterioration are going to be your English, your organics. So it's going to be the wood, the leather, textile, that kind of stuff, because it is so susceptible to multiple forms of deterioration, from oxygen, from our lovely greasy acidic fingers, from UV, from microbiological, sorry, apologies, from microbiological deterioration. So those tend to deteriorate the most quickly and need different forms of intervention. So then you have your metals, and those are also really susceptible to deterioration depending on their burial environment. So, something that is coming from terrestrial excavation that maybe is really arid, has undisturbed soil, that might be in really good state of preservation. But if it's coming from a site where, say, there's been a lot of agricultural activity, all those chemicals that we put into the soil actually filter down and can infiltrate into the metals as well and cause some deterioration. And then, of course, you have, salty marine environments, which can really exacerbate, the deterioration and the corrosion of artifacts. So there's lots of things that we can do to slow that down. And some of it is done by a conservator, but some of things can be, done just, by mitigating the environment around an object. So, and I know that a lot of people, oh, go ahead.
No, please continue.
So a lot of people go online to get some ideas of how they can preserve their artifacts. And maybe not everybody understands how the deterioration is taking place. They don't understand the chemistry behind it. And so, they make uninformed decisions based off of maybe something that they see online, or these really fun, like, old wives recipes, which can have detrimental effects. But there are appropriate resources out there that can help people make informed decisions for their collections.
So why do you think that this is an important topic that we talk about right now, this year?
I mean, this year, it's every year, really. I talk to anybody from, metal detectorists that are involved with archaeological research to, somebody who's just been excavating in their backyard and find something really cool and they want to preserve it. And instead of, maybe seeking out professional advice, they resort to the internet, which is unfortunate because that can maybe lead them down a path of deterioration instead.
Well, thank you, Nichole. Thank you for the work that you do for Maryland and abroad. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today about this.
Yeah, and one last thing, if anybody wants to get in contact with Conservator, the American Institute of Conservation has really good resources out there to find somebody in your local area, or you can always contact your local SHPO office. They can probably recommend a conservator or a curator in your region that can help you advise, find the appropriate advice to take care of your collection.
Excellent. Thanks. Great shout out. Thanks, Nichole.
Thank you. Bye.